Welcome back everyone to TLuxe Style. This is Tasha. I thought I'd bring to you today the Luxe look for less, where you can go from an old table to a great ottoman. So take a look at this table. You guys, I don't even remember how long I've had this table, probably for about 10 years or longer, but I thought, I could turn this into a great ottoman or nice sitting area for guests. What you're looking at is my inspiration piece. Now, guys, this piece can be found in Restoration Hardware. I am definitely not sponsored by them, but that's where I found this piece, and I thought something very similar would look great in one of my guest bedrooms. This sells for $1,095. Yes, you heard me correct. Almost $1,100. So you know we definitely are not going to spend that much on it. We're going to do a great DIY project ourselves. And it will look very similar to what you see in the photo. Just again, here's another reminder of what it looks like. And just to show you where I found this inspiration piece. Now, this is how it looks in the end. So I wanted to show you the finished product first so you could get an idea of what we're going to change it into the very end. And once again, there's another photo of it in my guest bedroom that is on the main floor. So now let's get started, everybody. First, you're going to need some supplies to complete this project. You heard me mention this table I've had. Actually, guys, I think it might even be a plant stand. So just choose any type of base that you have. I chose something that I already had at home because I did not want to spend any money on making another purchase. So additionally, you will need as well some wood. Once again, I just used some wood that I already had at home. You will need to cut it to size. So if it's not the right size, what you will need to do is measure the top of your table base and then cut it to whatever those measurements are. And as you can see, I did not use an expensive type of wood. I did that on purpose because it will not be seen. So you guys use a cheap plywood or whatever you have, or a particle board. Don't go spend a lot of money on this, getting birch wood or something similar, because it will not be seen in the end. So once you have gotten your wood piece together, you are going to do some measurements. You're going to have to measure where you would like your tufting. And for me, I wanted about 3 rows or so of tufting. So I measured the piece itself, the wood piece itself, and then how many tufts I wanted. And then I figured out how many holes I would have to make. Now what you see now are the buttons I purchased from Hobby Lobby. I did use a 40% off coupon. They're not that expensive, but you will need these buttons in order to make your covered buttons in the same fabric of your choice for your table. And what you're looking at now is the fabric I selected. Now guys, I just so happened to have some fabric that was very similar to my inspiration piece, but you can use something that's different. This is a piece of leather fabric that I've had probably for 2 or 3 years, and I thought it would be great to use for my new seating area. Now, one of the things I will tell you is this can be a very inexpensive project if you shop your home first. I shopped my home as well for the batting. You will need some batting, enough to cover the top of your table base as well as the sides. So just make sure you have correct measurements before you go to the store if you have to purchase some. And again, I already had some batting on hand, so it cost me exactly $0. Even better, right? So after you've gotten your wood and your batting, the next step is to get ready to actually do the work. So this is one of the exciting but also probably tedious jobs that you will do for this piece. And the reason why I say it's tedious is because your measurements will need to be exact. Now, what you don't want is one hole that is 6 inches from the next hole, and then 4 inches from the next hole, and then maybe 6 inches from the next one. You want to be very precise. So make sure that you measure 2 or 3 times so that once you make your holes are going in the correct place for your tufting. And just a great tip for you to keep in mind is the bigger your hole and the tighter you pull your buttons through, the deeper your tufting will be. So if you don't want tufting that's very deep, just don't make the hole as big and don't pull as tightly on the button. So let's get started. You guys, what I'm using is just a Black & Decker drill I purchased, I think from Home Depot quite a while ago. Probably have had it for 2 or 3 years. This is not a heavy duty one. It's one that I use for my small projects around the house. So just keep in mind you don't have to have anything fancy for this, but once you've marked your holes, you're just going to drill them as you see me demonstrating in the picture. Now, of course, I'm just showing you how you would move from hole to hole without actually making the drill, without making the holes actually on video, because that would be very noisy. And there you see me doing just a little adjustment because unfortunately I didn't have my bit in there tight, so I had to make a little bit of adjustment to make it tighter. If you need some help, by all means, just get someone to help you with this, but it does not require great skill. So I think even if you're a beginner, you should be able to do very, very well with this project. So believe in yourself and get going with it. Now, after you've completed making the holes, you're going to come to the next part of this project. Now, guys, if I had to estimate, I guess it was around 10 holes or so total that I made in the wood. It really is going to be determined by how many tufts you would like, but just make sure, again, as I mentioned before, that they are even. And I am holding up close so you can see that it sometimes helps to just draw a diagonal line to make sure that everything is straight. Now to the part of the foam. One of the things I did not mention is that you will need some foam because you do want a pretty soft seating for any guest in the room where you're going to place it. So the foam that I use is foam that I had already. So what I'm going to do is actually place the piece of wood immediately on top of the table base or plant stand or whatever it is that you're using. And then once you place the wood down, the next step will be placing your foam on top of the wood. And then, of course, ultimately, you're going to put your batting on top of the foam. Now, I wanted to show you what I use to actually spray on top of my foam before I put it down to my wood. Make sure you spray this in a well ventilated area. I did not spray this indoors, you guys. I'm not spraying in the video. I'm just showing you what you would do. I use general purpose spray. You can use really whatever type suits you. But it just really helps to make sure your foam adheres to the wood. If you don't have any, that's okay. You can just skip that step. Now, what you see now are the circles that I have cut for my button covers. Now, the kit that I showed you early in the video does come with a measurement, or I guess rather template, I should say, instead of a measurement. It does come with a template that you can use to cut your circles, which is what I did. So I'm just showing you that I went ahead and cut out the number of circles that I would need for my buttons. And then you will cover each button individually. Now, this leather that I chose is pretty thick. So just know that you're going to have probably a little bit of a challenge if your fabric is very thick. Sometimes upholstery fabric is very thick and it has a very thick backing. So just keep that in mind because you will have to press, as you see me doing in the video, the back of the button cover into the fabric itself. So if it's challenging, perhaps you want to choose a fabric that is not as thick so you won't have as much of a problem. Now I wanted to show you where my inspiration came from in terms of color. The color scheme in this particular guest room is really like a pretty blue. I would call it perhaps a sapphire, as well as gold, just a hint of copper or rust, and maybe just a little bit of tan or cream. One of the things I wanted to do was to make sure I bring out some colors that weren't as prominent. So in this bedroom, I do have a lot of blue, as you will see as I'm scanning. I don't have as much of the rust or copper color. And because of that, I wanted to make sure that I take an opportunity to bring out some of the other colors, which is why I selected to go with more of a copper or rust color, which is the same color you see for that chair. So the fabric is actually very similar to the color of that chair, so that brings out some of the other colors that were in that wall art that you saw. I really hope that you've enjoyed the video. I hope that this has been some inspiration to you to show you that you can get a luxe look for a lot less if you just take your time and use your creativity. If you like what you saw in the video, I do ask that you take the time to subscribe, because it lets me know that you want to see more videos from me. And if you'll also take the time to hit that likes button so that I know you enjoy these particular types of videos as well, and make sure that you click that notification bell so that you don't miss any of the videos that are shared with you. Thank you for watching TLuxe Style, and I'd like to remind all of you that you were created for a purpose. I wish blessings to all of you as you continue to strive for greater every day.